Hi friends, today let's dive into the Hunger Games. At the end of the series, Panem has gone through a huge rebellion. The tyrannical dictator, Coriolanus Snow, was almost replaced by the equally tyrannical dictator, Al McCoy, but they were both executed before this could happen. This left the country without a clear leader and gave the population the opportunity to vote for their president for the first time.
Tonight, the 12 district leaders will call for a free election.
Commander Paylor from District 8 is elected to become the new president of the country.
I solemnly swear, to the best of my ability, to preserve, protect, and uphold the rights of every citizen of Panem.
Her election was due to her ability to rally crowds, but also her views on humanity and war.
There's little doubt that Paylor will carry it. She's become the voice of reason.
She is a very different leader to what Panem had been used to up until this point. Which begs the question, what is Panem like now under this new leadership? Because Paylor grew up in District 8, she understands firsthand the kind of treatment the districts went through under President Snow.
Katniss, Commander Paylor, District 8. Katniss has been recovering, but she insisted on coming out and seeing some of your wounded.
Well, I've got plenty of those.
This means she would be aware of what the districts need now to be able to heal from this oppression. A seemingly small step is to actually open the borders between the districts. This would allow people to travel freely from one district to the other and even in and out of the capital.
Gale has been promoted to a captain in District 2.
We know from the epilogue of Mockingjay that this relatively small change made a huge difference for the citizens of Panem. However, Paylor's understanding of the oppression she lived through isn't just a link to the districts. Paylor shows a lot of compassion and empathy, and therefore would be able to help the citizens of the capital. These capitalites would need a lot of rehabilitation. They have lived with the idea of being different, better, and more important than all of the citizens of the districts for generations.
I don't think I ever really understood the Capitol until now. We like this and believe anything.
This mentality would need to be changed to create a more equal viewpoint. However, changing a mentality that has existed for this long would take a lot of patience and time. This change would definitely not happen overnight. It may not even happen while Paylor is still in power. But Paylor would definitely start this change and process to heal the whole country. Similarly to the Capitolites, the victors and other survivors of trauma would also need a lot of rehabilitation.
Promise me you'll find it. Find what? The life of a victor.
Obviously, this rehabilitation would be very different to what the capital citizens need. These survivors would need to learn to trust others, but more importantly, trust that the system has their best interests in mind. We see an aspect of this change in the epilogue of Mockingjay.
We've all suffered so much, but we owe it to their memories and to our children to do our best with these lives.
We learn that Haymitch starts raising geese to cope with the lack of alcohol between shipments. Though this means he is obviously still drinking and still relies on alcohol, he is actually getting better. He no longer shuts down completely if he doesn't have access to alcohol. Not only does he not shut down, he's actually capable of looking after other living creatures. Haymitch joins Peter and Katniss to make a memorial book which allows them all to start healing from the incredible amount of loss they have each faced. This shows that these survivors are willing and able to start a healing process. This is a hugely positive sign and especially reflects very well on Paylor. Trauma survivors need a very safe and comforting environment to be able to face the trauma that they went through and start healing from it. The fact that multiple victors are able to do this shows that Paylor has the kind of government that is helping them. However, though Paylor is a very empathetic person who pushes towards forgiveness, this doesn't mean there won't be any punishments.
This afternoon, we will execute Snow. Hundreds of his accomplices also await their deaths.
For any politicians or high-ranking officials that were part of President Snow's circle, Paylor would likely insist on holding trials. These trials would be used to determine whether the person should be forgiven, imprisoned, or executed. Though personally, I doubt any of them would actually be forgiven. All of these officials knew what they were doing and chose to join President Snow's circle. Obviously, there is an argument that they were still innocent. One could argue that they joined President Snow's circle to keep them himself safe from Snow. And then once you're part of his circle, you have to accept and go with anything he says. However, even if this is true and not just an excuse, this is probably not enough to be forgiven by the new government. Overall, Panem would be a much more peaceful nation. However, this doesn't mean that everyone in Panem would move on easily. Those who are once in a place of power may not approve of being put on an equal footing with everyone else.
We're facing an enemy that will not change and will never surrender.
And those who are oppressed may feel that not enough time has passed for them to forget what happened to them. Or even push it one step further, they may feel that more people need to be punished for the treatment of those being oppressed.
But the danger is, once we begin, the rebels will not stop calling for retribution. A thirst for blood is a difficult urge to satisfy.
It would take a long time for the entirety of the country of Panem to settle into this more peaceful nation. But having Paylor as their first elected president would put Panem on the right track to becoming a more equalitarian and peaceful country. Canis mentions in the books that the Capitol claims that there are no other countries on the planet. Supposedly, this is due to devastating wars and climate change. However, Canis herself points out that she doesn't know how much she actually believes this. Considering the political climate we see in Panem, we know it's a totalitarian dictatorship. In these kinds of countries, the citizens are not allowed to know what happens outside of their own country's borders. All they know is whatever the country's leaders let them know. In Panem's case, all the citizens are allowed to know is there's no one else on the planet. However, this does seem pretty unlikely. Once Paylor took control of Panem, she'd be able to open up the borders and start exploring potentially making relationships with other countries. Paylor would also push for change in schools, allowing children to actually find out the truth about the world around them. How do you think the wealthy capital citizens would adapt to living in this new version of Panem? Please tell me in the comment section down below. And until next time, happy bubbles! Thanks so much for watching this video, and thank you to my Patreon bubblers for supporting the channel. If you want to see any of my other Hunger Games videos, you can click on the box on the left to find out quite a few facts about Commander Paylor, or you can click on the box on the right to find out if there are actually other countries in this universe. Thanks for liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell.